This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
All doctors to ER. All nurses to the nurses station. Code blue 305.
10-4 engine high, engine 3 is en route. Shots fired, shots fired. Officer down. I repeat, officer down. 911, what's your emergency? Backup is en route.
Evacuations continue tonight in Maribel.
Apartments, you can see this evacuation
nightmare.
notice on one door.
Rolling, motion, roll sound, and
Dangerous groups.
action.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather around your radio sets. I am not going to hurt you. We have a big, lovely, dynamic, and inspirational show. We're talking about the education system and the changes and are we getting our money's worth? If you look at the United States of America, we have spent a lot of money into the education system. They're talking about testing, and they're always talking about change and change. Even if you look at the Obama administration, that was the campaign slogan that they ran off of, was change. And change is what we need. Change is what we want as Americans. And as we move towards the future, many people are wondering, is change a global democracy? Is it something that people are planning, or is it just change within the institution of America? Has the education system become too institutionalized, where kids have to come to school and go through metal detectors and have clear book bags? These are some things we're going to talk about today and discuss. If you want to call in when we talk about this topic, the number is 1-877-877-0228. You get a full 55 minutes of mediation with me, your host, Brian West. And I'm not here to hurt you. I'm very gentle with my guests, the people who call in and we talk about it. See, the goal of this show is to find solutions to a problem that we have and we face. Now, when we talk about the education system, let's talk about the root. The root, which is called money. Money is what drives capitalism. It drives many countries of the leaders and the people who want to maintain a structure where people are fundamentally sound and they can be controlled, or I wouldn't say controlled, but make sure that they cooperate within the public sector. But what we're talking about here is we're talking about the education from not only the city, but we're talking about the suburbs. We're talking about in the country, and we're talking about home schools. We're talking about different types of people here in the melting pot, ladies and gentlemen. And some people do not feel that the education system is working. When you're the leader in not just innovation, but the global thing that's going on, this machine that's driving. The United States has been the forefront of everything. I mean, we've inspired the car. We've inspired so many people to think above the horizon. But this is a deal that we're making here, people. This is something that we have to think about when we talk about education. This is something. Listen, what if I told you I can offer you not only just a car, but I can teach you how to make that car, and then you in turn get knowledge, my friend, on that car, and with that knowledge you can get jobs and get creation. But what happens in that recipe when you take out the fact that you won't get to worship, but you just get to make the car? And you get to hire people to live in a building where they get to make the car too. But if they try to be educated in some other field, then they don't get to do that. But we're talking about freedom, ladies and gentlemen, in America, where people can make those decisions. If they don't want to work, they can go do their own thing and spend their time reading books and developing a system to where they can develop their own corporations, their own individual inspiration. But some people are saying that some kids don't even know that fundamental aspect of freedom. They don't know that power they possess as a human being to be educated. But some people say that they're separating education with fundamentals of art, things that are not productive, like drinking and not working out. They're using their body in unfundamental ways, ladies and gentlemen. 1-877-877-0228. You're in the Mediator with Brian West, the mediator of democracy, where I try to be smooth and get in tune with the solution of the problem that we face here in democracy. 1-877-877-0228. I will not be aggressive. I won't hurt the politicians who are running, but I do know that they have to have an agenda when it comes to restructuring and getting involved with the power that America possesses. There are so many candidates who are running for office right now, and when you talk about the hoops and the haws and the entertainment and the soap opera effect, no, ladies and gentlemen, we need a plan, a strategic plan to be able to manage a system where you have over 1 million people migrating into the education classroom every day, where teachers are being overworked and some of them are being underpaid. They're spending mass amounts of hours on the clock, and some people are watching criminals get away with murder as they go, and they dropped out, so this is what we need to discuss when we talk about this fairness and this education problem. 1-877-877-0228, 1-877-877-0228. As we engage in this topic, you have to think about the fundamental aspects of knowledge. What inspires you to get up in the morning to learn something new? Education is fruitful. Will you take the fruit off of the tree to learn about where that fruit comes from, the soil that provides? This is what we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, and why it needs to be on one of the first things on the thought of the president when he thinks about the future of any country, because you need education. Education is the forefront of every environment. It inspires minds abroad. It inspires the unintellect to become intellectual. It inspires the slave to become not just the freedom slave, but to free people from slave. Education is something, and it is sparked in every child at a certain time. People say it's a godsend when a child decides that they want to learn. I remember when I was growing up and I was in high school, and my first inspiration I had with knowledge was I wanted to experiment and see what it was like to flunk. When I did this, it changed my view on living and school and schooling and why education was so important. What I decided to do, now this, I wouldn't recommend that you teach your kids to try to do this, was I'll never forget, I was a freshman at this school called Woodrow Wilson in Youngstown, Ohio. And I did not want to be in the in crowd. I was getting straight A's, and I remember my mother, she said, we don't ever have to worry about Brian's grades. Brian always gets good grades. So at that particular time when she said that, I said, I wonder what it would be like if I was a failure. What would change in this life of mine? Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when I failed, it was the worst experience I had ever seen. I seen things happening. I got lazy for a year, my freshman year, and I started to see things happening. I seen people getting killed. I went to parties and I started dancing with girls. Men started to threaten my life, and then I was starting to lose a relationship with my mother. I got a little bit undisciplined there, and it was starting to become a mess. And I started to see what it was like in school when you got with the in crowd, the people who were supposed to be popular and the people who were supposed to be the ones that were supposed to be determining the future, the athletes. I started to try to fit in with them. And then a spark in my brain at the end of the year when I looked at my grades and they were all F's and no A's, something said to me, this experiment needs to change. So what I did was I upped my ante the next year. I went to the guidance counselor, the first person I talked to. I said, what do I need to do to get to the 10th grade? And she told me, she said, you need to go and these are the classes that you need to pass. And this is what you have to do. You have to pass English. You have to do this. You have to do that. So I upped my skills a little bit. I hit the books and I graduated. But most kids don't get that second chance. Some kids fall in too deep when they experiment, even in college, when you become an adult, you experiment with things that set you back. 1-877-877-0228. We're talking about the education system, and are we getting our money's worth when it comes to schooling the kids and schooling just Americans? 1-877-877-0228. When we're in the information age, when all of the knowledge is at your stake on the computer and on the internet. If you think about another thing about that I thought about was what goes on over in the Middle East when you talk about education, and this is a proven fact that if you teach someone how to build a bomb, they will build it. Just some of the pros and cons of education. But what we're trying to figure out today is this education system working in the United States when you have so many college parties going on, which is not a bad thing. You have so many people who are not getting the fruits of education. Where does it start? Where does that inspiration start? It has to start somewhere. Does it start in the classroom? Does it start on your day-to-day activities when you see something that you want to learn how to make? If you look at, if you look at the forefront of the problem that we face, I won't get into the problems that we face yet, but I want to stay in the inspiration realm on what inspires people to learn and what makes people want to write that book, what makes them want to be the innovator, what makes them want to do that. And there has to be an inspiration somewhere. Most people think that it starts in the home. Some people think that it starts with the families, with the parents, the mothers and fathers not being able to maintain the structure. But I said I'm not going to give myself too much credit because I still have a lot to accomplish, but I was raised in a broken home where my father wasn't around until I got older, but I still managed to keep things together. So some people just think it's the mentality of the child. The child has to want to learn. There has to be that one spark of excitement. 1-877-877-0228. 1-877-877-0228. We're talking about the education system and the mass amounts of dollars that goes into the funding of not just child education, but just the things that teachers are going through in the unions and the stuff that they have to go through when people are trying to make the grades, when you have leadership changes and then people come in, they restructure the system. They tell kids that they have to pass tests. Then they tell them they have to go to a different school. These are things that's happening inside the education system. Superintendents are being dethroned after getting maybe about 10 years to try to up the ante. And they're trying to say it's not us, it's not the teachers, it's the parents, it's what's going on at home. And then when you talk about the political candidates, these are the things that need to be addressed. There has to be a solution to the problem when you talk about the inner cities, and people don't want to invest their monies in things that are not productive. And when people do not see productivity, folks, I mean, it's evident. They get disturbed. And right now people are getting disturbed because things it's not functioning. I mean, when you talk about education, you talk about what inspires people, what inspires mind. There's been a lot of money invested, not just in nonprofit, but in charter schools, and laws have changed to try to give everybody an even ball field on the playing field, but some people just have not been able to adapt. 1-877-877-0228. We are 15 minutes into mediation with Brian West, and we're going strong here. 1-877-877-0228. You have 55 minutes of me to try to voice your solutions to a problem. Today we're talking about the education system and the changes that have happened over the years, and the funding and the money, where it's going. Are we getting our money's worth when it comes to education and funding, not just American schools, but the innovative mind? They say Einstein got his vision for creativity when he was working at a patented place, and then he all of a sudden developed the idea of space when people started to, and it created such a knowledge boom that it happens. Are we in that time? Are we in that time right now where we need that spark? Could it be the radio that gives you that spark of inspiration to want to learn, to put down the drugs and put down the fun activities and all the social gatherings, and finally say, I'm going to hit the books and get my education? This is something that everybody wants to know, even when you talk about college and how people are spending mass amounts of money and time into the college realm, where they are paying for school, but they don't feel like it's worth anything. Most people who graduate college will tell you, there's bills to be paid. I mean, college is almost like right now is dead heaven. They're making some changes but like I said, once leaders change and once the positions shift, who knows who will be in Congress next and what will happen to the forefront of education then. I've always thought that an educated mind is a peaceful mind. Somebody who is educated knows how to make educational decisions and educated decisions. Education takes work. It takes practice, and it's very hard. You have to sacrifice time. Opportunity cost, ladies and gentlemen. 1-877-877-0228. 1-877-877 0228. You're in the Mediator with Brian West. We're talking about the ever-changing education system. If you want to donate or sponsor the program or be involved with anything that we do at Method 8 Arts Academy or just Method 8 in general, you can always go to our website at method8inc.com, method8inc.com. And now when you look at the things that have happened over the years and the evolution of education and the things that have happened in the United States, when you have people running for office and things is changing on a political scale, some people believe that once you involve politics in the education system, that is what changes it. That is what takes it, rips it apart. And some people do not like to be outdone when it comes to education. Some people don't like to be told what to do. And for years, people have known that there have been teachers who have been on the job who come in the classroom and they just sit there and collect a paycheck. These are some of the things that also happen in the education realm. And also, people do not feel that the teachers are teaching in the classroom. They don't feel like they're giving it a full effort. We have a caller on the line. I am going to take this call. Caller, you are in the air. You're in the Mediator on WPIC with Brian West. How you doing, caller?
Hello, Brian. This is Ruth Bowen from last Sunday.
Excellent. I love talking to you last Sunday, Ruth.
Oh, my husband asked me, he said, would you like to listen to that radio station you heard last Sunday? And I called because I wanted to get a copy of it, what you said.
Yeah.
How you started your program.
Uh-huh.
But I never could make contact. I called numbers. I got online.
Yeah.
I became confused.
If you go to Method, that's METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, you should be able to get on there, and the shows are uploaded to our YouTube channel, but they're connected to our website, so you can always get a copy. We usually upload them every Monday, and even if you want to, even if you email us, and then I can email you the links and things like that. But if you want a hard copy, then let me know. You can either register online, and then I can I can put you on our list and things like that. But that's usually how it's done.
So then I'm curious or interested. Are you from in Canada?
No, I'm actually in the Hermitage right now, and I'm talking weird.
Okay,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, but I live in Youngstown. I actually live in Youngstown and Boardman.
Okay, and I live in Smoky Hollow.
Oh, okay, so we're not too. Oh, go ahead.
Let's talk about this education, because we want solutions.
We need solutions. That's what we need. I like your attitude.
And I thought, I was sitting here listening to you, and all these thoughts go through my head. One of them is, maybe we can learn from the past.
I think so. We can.
Do you have a vision or an idea that you feel strongly about the wrongness of our education?
I think honestly, we've become too autocratic. When I mean by autocratic, I think most of our social behavior have become. My track coach when I was in high school once told me, he said, "Brian, you never let a computer outthink you." He says, because once you let a computer outthink you, then it'll start doing your thinking for you. So yes. I think when you look at students, you can tell, to me, which students, it only takes one spark, and a teacher that inspires questions is a teacher that it has control of that classroom. Because once that one question pops up, then those students become that you have to open up their minds, and I think that's what we're lacking. I think there's too much going on with competition. That's one thing I do say about the United States. The United States is very competitive. You can look at our athletes right now and see that when you talk to them about athleticism, they always want to say, I'm the greatest, but really I don't think that's a good trait, because you have 5 players on a team, you have 11 players on a football team, and then when you go into a baseball, each player gets a chance, then you got to track, people have to get the points. One thing I've learned about our culture here is that sometimes and people can feel left out, but you have those role players who know what the sport entails, and they're chemists. It's like a chemistry set. You don't want to leave out the main ingredient. A lot of it has to do with the ethics of what we've become. Like they've taken a lot of. I think they've taken a lot of. They try to take God out of the aspect too. That's a missing ingredient, because I think people need I think God is a motivator. Because if you, to me, I don't want to do too much talking, but I'll let you get back to your points. To me, when you look at the theories of relativity, and you look at how the universe spawned, there has to be a creator, and even in life. So that's what I think, is that they've taken the fundamental aspect out of education, which is the spark. You can't have a student sit in a classroom all day and beat them to pass a test. Sometimes tests, I was not a good test taker. All my military comrades would tell you, when it came to a test, I just, for some odd reason, it just wasn't in my vocabulary. I blacked out. But I think it's because of the fact that some people can take tests, some people can't. I was not a test taker. I was a good officer, a good petty officer when I was in the military, but when it came to tests, I sometimes I would black out. I mean, I don't know why I was like that. Sometimes I was good. I mean, but I just think we've lost the sense of creativity. I think that's what's gone. What are your views?
Well, as you were speaking, I'm connecting with you on many levels. The one, not being in touch or motivated by the power greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
And, but all things are good, and all things can be abused.
Absolutely.
So, when man couldn't read, and he was isolated, and he couldn't even read the Bible because he didn't know how to read.
Yeah.
So then we had this marvelous thing called teachers.
Oh, yeah. I like teachers.
So, Holy Mother Church has always stepped up to the plate and met the needs of the people, only we are a minority.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about minority, you're talking about the faith, am I correct?
No, I'm talking about when we're not the majority of the humanity.
Oh, yeah.
The minority of humanity.
Okay.
But you're right. And I think I might have even asked you last week, are you familiar with Leo Buscaglia?
One thing I will never. I'm not good at is remembering names. I have to see faces.
Oh,
yeah. I have to see faces.
He was a teacher. He taught psychology out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book called Love.
Okay.
Because his students would ask him questions, and he said there are so many books on hate, how to solve this problem, how to solve that problem. He said, but there are no books on love.
Yeah. You talk about
another. Yeah.
You talk about love. Yeah. Go ahead. You talk about.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I was gonna say you said something about love last week. You talked about love last week. Tell me why you bring that up a lot. Love. Why is that so pivotal to a nurturing education?
Because picture a small segment of society where many of the children slip through the cracks and they do not succeed. You got that in your head?
Yeah.
Well, their mothers love them. Their
Absolutely.
fathers love them.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the mothers or the fathers could not meet the child's emotional and psychological, maybe even physical needs.
Yeah.
And so they feel pain, they feel guilt, they feel sorrow. The kids grow up observing this.
Yeah.
And then we have all these little side games. Blame them. We can blame the husband. Just blame him. We can blame the wife. But the kids are the ones who absorb that. They learn that growing up. And it's not that people don't love them. We don't know how to manifest love. We don't know how to, Christ said, I give you a new commandment, love one another.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, even the most holy of us, we got to learn how to love.
Well, when you look at, I think, when you look at the leader, the people who are running the education system now, I don't think most of them, I think some of them have been, because I've always been in tune with the the biblical, because I was raised in church, and then when I went to school, I had that church mentality. But the kids that I seen that were not raised in the church, they seem to have a very, and I think there's a difference there. I think most kids who, and when I went to an independent fundamentalist church, when I was in my marriage for a few years, I saw the difference. It seems like people who are raised in the church, they have such a conscious way of thinking, and you can see the difference. And if you go to the schools in the inner city and you look at the difference there, they're being, I think they kind of feed into the arts. I think with this heavy arts, entertainment. We have a lot of entertainment in the United States, and I think a lot of kids, I think they're influenced by that. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I think it becomes the role model.
Yeah.
The movie becomes the role model. The movie becomes the reality when it is not. So instead of having the joy of our real life, like me having the joy right here in my home with my family, and truthfully, I do not. Half of our children are very close.
Yeah.
And some of our children are scattered.
Yeah.
I have a young man involved with Islam, and that's a big separator.
Well, even when you talk about religion, people are not even educated about religion. And most people who are involved with religious activities, and I tell people all the time, the reason why I chose my faith was, even though I was introduced to it, I was given a choice. I chose the Christian faith because the Christian faith teaches redemption, it teaches forgiveness, and it teaches moral principles that time goes on, and you can get better in time if you work at it. So when I talk about that, even when I was educated on Christianity and where it came from, I mean, most religion stems out of Egypt, but even the Islamic faith, I think that there's a divide even with them, because most people are not even educated about Islam, but they're always trying to, there's just a divide between Christianity and religious groups to people who are not educated about religion or where this stems from. And I honestly believe that if people were educated about religion, they would understand why it's so important. Do you agree with that?
Well, what you just said struck a bell, and what it was, you're right. The history of religion, understanding where it came from and what it means.
Yeah.
But just like picture church group.
Yeah.
But some of the people in it are prideful. They are.
Yeah.
They've made their ego is so driven that instead of serving the power greater than themselves, they try to serve themselves.
Yeah.
And like
I believe that.
Islam, if the majority of those who want to lead a peaceful life are silent when some Muslims say, "Oh, in the name of Allah, God wants me to do this. It's evil, but He wants me to do it in the name of the religion."
Yeah, that needs to be addressed.
So anybody who does not understand and serve a power greater than self and understand who they are,
yeah,
they don't know they're a creation. They don't know how good they are. They don't know their own intrinsic goodness.
Let me give a quick tagline real quick. You're listening to The Media with Brian West. I'm on the phone with a caller. We're talking about the education system, and are we not just getting our money's worth, but as people, are we seeing results? If you want to call in, 1-877-877-0228, 1-877-877-0228. If you want to donate or sponsor to the program or contribute to anything we do at Method 8, you can always donate at method8inc.com. So I hear what you're saying when you talk about that fundamental aspect. One thing I've always admired about human beings is that even when it comes to rehabilitation and cleansing out old habits, cleansing out old things that are hindering your time and hindering your life, I believe that's the foundation of religion and education, because I've watched people do some things to their life, and they want to. I think you have to want to learn. I think there has to be an event that occurs in life that inspires you. Like I said at the beginning of the program, when I was a freshman, I tried to flunk, and I saw what it was like when I failed. And it was not a pretty sight. I was falling behind. And I think when I went home, and my mother, when she saw that, because I'd never failed anything when I was growing up, and I failed as a freshman. And the next day when I came back to school after I failed the next year, I didn't speak to anybody. And most people will tell you I lost a lot of friends. And I think that's what it takes when somebody wants to be educated or wants to better themselves in life. You have to lose friends. And I do believe what you're saying is that it does say in Scripture that when you turn to Christ, he says he did not come to turn people towards each other. You will get some enemies because you want to progress in life, correct?
Yeah, yes, and there's so many things, like you said, losing friends. There's so many things that stop us from risking, from stepping forward, from changing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is fear, just other things. When you mentioned education, are we getting our money's worth? Here in Youngstown is the issue, can the state take over our school system? Well, the thing is, if you've had your school system for all these years and now you're having all these problems.
Yeah.
But the thing is, maybe the state stepping in could do something. But when we are not the main educators, when we don't realize we need to grow. We need to. When I hear school people, principals, teachers, police people in the school system, when they use roadblock talk to tell parents, you have to do this, you have to do that, instead of loving the parent out of the hell they're already in.
Absolutely.
So that when I talk about love, that's kind of what I'm thinking. In some way, that educated principal, that educated superintendent, that educated teacher have got to look out and see Christ in this mother or father or student.
You know what scares me? So I didn't mean to cut you off, but you struck some bells in my thought. You know what scares me about that when they talk about that in Youngstown, what's going on in Youngstown, is that has been going on since I was in high school. When I was in high school, I can't remember the superintendent's name, but I think his name started with a B. Now, I was heavily burdened when I was a child because we had problems within the home, but I went to Woodrow Wilson. I went to 7 different schools when I was growing up because of the changes that they were always making. And every time I would get settled in or try to find a friend, it was always a different school. And a lot of people don't know that about me. But I ended up graduating from Cheney High School. But there was some pros and cons that occurred during that transition, and I think it happened on purpose. But when you talk about the switching that they're doing, when these adults start tampering with the lives of the children, the kids, and changing things around, you have to think about what it's doing to that child, and I think this is what's scaring the community, because when you talk about the state stepping in, you're talking about they're coming in, but they haven't been, most of these people, some of them have that mentality like we have to see results. It takes time to see results. And what's happening in Youngstown is I think the community as a whole needs to come together and figure out what they can do to make it better. I do like the spark, but I think the students need to have a voice, and I think the parents need to have a voice. But I think that what it all boils down to is when it comes down to hitting the books, are those kids learning? And when I was up at East, when I was up there working with them, the kids, I think that the entertainment world is messing with the thoughts of the children. And I think that because they're always listening to music. One thing I noticed, they always have these headphones on with, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there watching it.
Yes.
That's why I told you there's a difference. When I was in the fundamentalist church, now they were self teaching their school, their students at the church, but these kids were in there learning, and but some of them were exhausted and tired of learning, but those kids, they have to learn, or they have authority in the classroom. When you're at the inner city schools or any, the public schools, it seems like there's a lot of freedom, but there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes there's a time and place for everything. I look at it, when you come in school, you come in the academic environment, it's time to learn. You have to put on your thinking caps, as my art teacher used to tell me. I mean, is that correct?
Well, as you're sharing all those ideas, I'm thinking to myself, there's so many issues. There's 40 people in the room and the teacher, so you have 41 people. So you multiply 41 by 41.
Yeah.
Because, so it gets so big. We have all these communication skills. Could you imagine if every classroom was recorded from beginning to end, and the parents could watch what their kids went through today?
So you're basically saying oversight.
I wonder how things would change. But I think we have to change. You're right. Get together and try to communication.
Yeah, because each party. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say each party has something to offer. I mean, the state has resources, the parents have nurturing, and the people, the public, has experience. That's why I always say. That's why I tell you. I always stress people. That's what you learn. That's what I've learned from the faith, is that every person has a skill that they possess, and you have to learn how to put those skills to work as a community.
Yes. And do we really know how to read and write?
We need to know that. You do need to know that.
Even I'm going to assume that you went to broadcasting school.
I was bred to do this. I've been creative since I was a young lad. My mother will tell you I used to draw and write ever since I was little. But the thing, I'm going to tell you where my struggle was that I was so determined to learn how to be a good writer that sometimes still when I edit, I still feel like there's something wrong. I can't, it has to be perfect. But I just wanted to do this. There was this English teacher, her name was Mrs. Grant, and I met her at Cheney. I had a little crush on her daughter, but I was more inspired by the fact that this woman could help me become a great writer. And I was just inspired. I mean, that's what I think. I think most kids, are brought into this world to do things, but you have to find out what it is that they want to do. And then I hate to use a certain breed, but you have to groom them into that and watch them blossom. But some kids are cheated though. I faced off with a lot of bullies. I faced off with a lot of crime growing up. I faced off with a lot of, things in the classroom that changed, I think, my outlook, but I was determined. I mean, I was knocked down a lot of times, but my mother will tell you, that's what I wanted to become. And this English teacher who I wouldn't say stalked her, but I was determined. I would go over her house, and I wanted to learn how to write. I really did. And I still don't feel like I'm good enough. That's the sad part about it.
You're right. And I think that was Buscalia's biggest message. He said, when we die, God isn't going to ask us how many degrees we have, how much money we made. He's going to say, why didn't you not become you?
Correct.
I created you to be a person. I wanted you to be this person, name. I wanted you to become Johnny Jones.
Yeah.
The best Johnny Jones you could be. And, I know you had pain. I showed you how to handle pain. That's on the cross. I showed you how to handle pain. You got to love and become you. And when you talk about education, what Bob said, you want to call him up, and I said, I just kind of brushed it off. But then when you were talking about education, I feel so strongly. Because when I hear topics that are being taught in school, we have to prepare you for your sexuality. And we have to be doing that when you're 10 or 8 or whatever. And I'm thinking, boy, Father God, you let me grow up at a perfect time.
Yeah, because there's so much. And you know what I do hate? I hate when I see people run. I've had so many people come in and out, and they see circumstances and they run. And you know what? Like they have bomb threats at school, and people say, "I'm not going there." And I've always thought that the person. I mean, there's things that happen in life. Like when you have the ISIS threat right now, if you don't contain ISIS, but you need volunteers. And that's what I like about democracy is that people, one thing you learn about democracy is just a matter of time before you have to face off with that that enemy. You can run from that. And that's what I like about Christianity. You can run from that classroom. You can run from knowledge your entire life. But when you have to face that test, it's gonna come. It happens to every human being, and that's a virtue. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You have to face off.
Men and women who look back in their past and they see it differently now. Elder people, my father, other men and women, they realize it could have been different. It could have been better.
Yeah.
and it's not for them. So we've been exchanging ideas, but what one positive thing could we send out there for your listeners to know that this is something they could do to help us heal and get better?
To me, I think that education is simple. Spawning of education is in everything. Education is in everything we look at because I don't get enough of learning. I want to learn all the time, and there's a hunger for it. You have to put that in people, and when you get that spark, I think if the audience is out there listening, I think that people have to put that hunger in not just their child, but they have to keep it within themselves because everything there's a lesson. Like I said, when I was younger and I grew older, I knew why. I didn't know why my dad was making the decisions that he was making then, but I know now, and it made me wiser. When people don't have money and resources, they do drastic things, and some people think that it's not common sense thinking because they're not in that position. But I saw it myself. When what would happen in broken homes, what would happen when dad came home drunk or he couldn't pay the bills, what mom would do. What we need to do is we have to use the resources that we have, and we have the resources. I mean, they have new schools in Youngstown all over the place, but we have to put those resources to use, and we have to put it in each of our hearts that every day we awake, there's always something new to learn. It has to be inspiring. I like to watch the cartoons, the new cartoons, some of the new stuff they have out. Even I like to watch some of the old cartoons because even like Sesame Street and things like that. Me and my sister used to watch it. We were diehard Sesame Street fans when we were coming up because those PBS programs for little kids like us in the inner city on public television, we would sit there and we would eat that knowledge up because it was like simplicity, blocks go here, things go there. We got to get that. I think that's what's happening. And when kids see things like videos or games that are teaching them to beat, I don't want to, like I said, I hate bashing people, but when kids see stuff like that, I mean, some kids are just put their hand in the socket. They're going to try it. And everybody will tell you when you face off against a bully who fed himself with some crazy stuff, when he's been burning himself and putting tattoos on him, you don't want to be around that stuff. But some people in school are still around this stuff. So you just gotta get to those students and make sure that they're getting things that you got to counsel them. You got to figure out what's going on at home. But to be honest with you, Miss Ruth, is that right now, when it comes to a solution to the problem, is the government has, I think that, I don't want to say they have not been trying, but I think they've poured in enough money. I think the attitude of people needs to change. And I think,
yes.
yeah, I think the attitude needs to change. That's what I think.
Yes.
It's just the
Yeah,
attitude.
but let's be more specific. Like, how would you identify the negative attitude about our local governments?
I mean, I can take it to the African American systematic thinking. Most African Americans, if you listen to secular music or just any type of music, if you listen to the old school music, most African Americans were against the education system because they did not want to learn against the people who enslaved them. And most people who migrate to the United States will tell you there's a fundamental difference when it comes to the education system from their country and this country. There's a culture shift, and that's what I say. Some people come in the classroom pessimistic. If you
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
I have a comment on
Oh,
that.
go ahead.
It's like those parents could not trust the school.
Yeah.
And the children sense that trust.
Absolutely.
And it exists today.
It still does.
So, yes. So what does stop us from trusting the other human being? Because it has nothing to do with our point of origin or our religion, because education has come from all cultures. You know?
Yeah.
The Eskimos, the Indians, the Irish, the
Absolutely.
French, the Italians.
Absolutely.
So it had nothing from center of Africa. They learned how, they used fire. Yes, so it has nothing to do. So then is that the poison of making slavery?
Well, what you got to think about, Miss Ruth, is you got to also think about this, too, is that some people who are in college, they don't even feel like they're getting their money's worth. I'm going to tell you exactly what goes on. We have like 9 minutes left in the program, but I'm going to get this out real fast. Is that some people feel like, especially college students, and I feel their pressure, is they're in there to learn, and they get out and they have a big load of bills, but they don't know where to go to handle those bills. And every time they go somewhere, it's always fill this out, and they got enough time on their plate. Education is not. One thing I've learned about learning is it has to be fun, and you have to feel secure when you learn. And right now, everything is so institutionalized. There's bureaucracies all over the place. People are trying to watch that dollar, and they're not concerned about what it is actually that these human beings are. When you want to be a doctor and you want to do it because you saw your father as a doctor and you saw that he helped people and you want to use that for the good of all mankind, when you go in the classroom and you see unethical, it's going to uncomfort you. When I studied business and I saw what the business mind had to be like, I was afraid because I was not taught that way. I said when I read ethics, when I took my ethics courses and I studied business, I said, I'm going to use business for the good. And I've never been capital driven, even though you do need money. But I said my business would always be run by its mission statement. And if I was not achieving my mission statement, then I, as a person, I've saw people taking advantage of the business plan. I've seen people steal. I've seen people come in there, and they do things. I've seen people who don't want to work. I've seen things happen, as a human being. But I see why people do make drastic decisions like they do now, and it all stems down to the attitude and the way that person, the way their thinking is structured. So you have to tap into that, and I think when you do, you get rid of the institutional slavery ideas, you get rid of this segregation, you get rid of the motives of the hidden motives, the beating up of teachers and things like that. You get rid of that stuff because you found out what was causing it. So that's the best way to sum it up.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a couple quick questions. Are you on during the week, or do you only broadcast on Sunday?
I'm only on Sundays. I'm doing a ton load of stuff within the community right now. Like we're doing, I've been on the independent movie kick, and I've been doing a lot of other things. I try to keep myself busy because I had a hard life, especially when I was in the military. And sometimes when I get idle thoughts, I think I can drift into a little bit of, that's one thing I learned about when you make the transition from the military into the civilian world. Even though it's been a while, sometimes I still have to adjust, but I try to keep myself busy. So I'm always available. I'll always try to lend a helping hand to anybody, but I think, being a veteran, it is, I think that you do have to make sure you stay busy. So I'm always doing something, but I'm on. I did this program. My goal coming into this program, the Mediator, was I wanted to run a program that was informative and a program that would keep me busy. And I have to do a lot of research before I come in here. So that's always fun. So I mean but I am available during sometimes.
Well, now you gave me information, but I'll tell you, you young people are too sharp for me. Can I call you back in, like, after you close the program?
Sure.
Specific data to get my copy of last week's show.
You sure can. Just go to the website and call that number on the website, and I will answer, as long as you're not a bill collector.
Oh, no.
Just kidding around, but yeah. But I'll pick up the phone. But I want to thank you so much, Ruth. You made the topic fun today. And you always add that extra love to the topic. But definitely do call me after the program, and I'll get you all the information you need.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ruth.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard it from the caller, I mean, there's a problem that we have in America. We have 5 minutes left in the program. If anybody wants to still call in and get the last few comments, 1-877-877-0228. You're in the media with Brown West, and we had a good topic today. We talked about the education system. I hope you all got something out of the topic. My summation is that there has to be an overhaul. There has to be an attitude shift, and people have to make learning fun. And the competitive spirit can drive an athlete. It can drive a teacher. It can drive anyone who's trying to run a structured system and try to learn and educate themselves every year on what to improve on. And then when you see changes always happening, yes, that's going to ruin a classroom. Yes, that's going to ruin the structure of any educational system. And yes, that will ruin the money that you put into that. I mean, when you look at even the development of the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they won their Super Bowls in those years, I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but I'll use them as an example. Pittsburgh Steelers had a family-run organization, if I'm correct. I hope I'm being correct. But that family-run organization, it took a while to get to those Super Bowls, but they did it, and it took time. They had to learn each other. They had to learn what players can do, what a team sports. And when you're in the classroom, that's a team effort. You know, some teachers feel like they're overburdened. They have too many students, but sometimes that's what it takes. You know, you have to go in that classroom every day motivated, and you have to want to get better as a teacher, and you have to, ask your students, what is it that they want to learn? And that's what always sparks learning. I think once a child finds out what they're into, what they want to be, they will do it. They will develop it. Michael Jordan, even some of the greatest athletes of all time. You got LeBron James. You got some other athletes out there. Some athletes who went straight from high school into the pros. I mean, you've got a lot of football players: Jerry Rice, Deion Sanders. I mean, even some linemen out there. You got a lot of good linemen, a lot of good athletes who are in the forefront right now. I even remember my buddy Maurice Claret, even though he had some hard times, but they all went through things. We had a lot of athletes come out of Youngstown, and they all will tell you, as you grow older, you get wiser, and you think about those opportunities that you had, and then you try to make it better for the future. And that's a good teacher. You're not out of the game. Nobody's out of the game yet, folks. I mean, you always have a chance to rebound in this faith and in this democracy that we live in the United States. Even in the religious realm right now, Muslims and Christians, and they have a chance. Everybody has a chance to, when there's life on earth, you can't undo the past, but you can make the future much better. You can change. Like I said, we started the program talking about change. People have the ability to change. I've been through some bad relationships with women, and I don't think Lord willing, I don't plan on ever getting into a marriage again, but I had to learn. And if I do get with a woman again, I'll make sure I'm educated enough to know what to expect and what to not expect, but I'll do things differently. And that's what education, that's what knowledge is all about, folks. And that's the process of life, and that's what we do. That's what we live life for. You try to see what you can correct from today and make it better tomorrow. And that's what we've become in this great democracy of the United States of America. Everybody will tell you it was a rough start. We're still cleaning up some things that have happened in the past, and we're still on the battlefield trying to find solutions, everybody. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Media8tor this week. I want to tell my audience out there, keep supporting me. Go to the website, try to donate, method 8inc.com, and try to help us out as much as you can. Sometimes volunteer work is the best work. Unpaid work or paid work is always beneficial too. Have a good week, everybody, and thank you for tuning to the Media with Brian West.
Listening to News Talk 790 WPIC, Sharon Hermitage, a Cumulus station, sponsored by the Ridgewood at Shenango Valley, a premier senior living residence.